AITA for showing up to Thanksgiving after my parents told me and my daughter to stay away? It was the day before Thanksgiving. The sky was gray. The traffic on the freeway was moving at just the right speed to make you think you might actually make it on time, which is how airports always build up your optimism before humiliating you at the security check. My daughter, Lily, was in her booster seat in the back, kicking her feet as if she had springs in her shoes. She had been counting down the days to this trip the way kids do. As if it were a holiday, a birthday, and seeing a unicorn all rolled into one. "Do you think Noah will play with me this time?" she asked. Noah was my sister Danielle's son. He was 7 and treated Lily like a mildly interesting app he could close when he got bored. "I'm sure he will," I said, using the voice mothers use when they're lying for the sake of peace. "And Chloe is going to show me her new Barbie," Lily continued unfazed. Chloe was Danielle's 9-year-old daughter, who was already practicing the facial expressions you see on people who review restaurants for a living. Lily hummed to herself, clutching the little stuffed fox she had insisted on bringing so he could celebrate Thanksgiving too. She had made name cards at school. Little folded pieces of paper with our names and drawings of turkeys that looked like they had survived a small explosion. She was excited to see her grandparents. She kept talking about Grandma's house as if it were a magical place with enchanted snacks. I had hope, not in a naive way, but more in the maybe this year everyone will act like adults for 4 hours kind of way. A cautious, fragile optimism, like balancing a glass ornament on a moving bus. My phone rang, the screen lighting up with Mom's picture. I smiled automatically because my nervous system apparently hadn't gotten the memo to be cautious. "Hey," I said, hitting the button and putting it on speaker, both because I was driving and because I have no desire to get pulled over for holding my phone like a teenager filming a TikTok. "Hi, Monica," my mother said. Her tone was careful, too careful, like someone trying to move a vase without letting it scrape. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Lily was looking out the window, her face slack and happy. "Hi, Mom," I said, my voice still a little breathless. "We're on our way. I think we'll actually make it." "Listen," she interrupted, and my optimism shattered. There was a pause just long enough for my brain to think, something is wrong. "We've been talking," she said, "and we think it's best if you don't come this year." I blinked as if my eyes could reboot the sentence. "What?" I said. "It's just," she went on as if explaining the weather, "your daughter is an embarrassment. We don't want her here. Danielle needs a day without drama. There are moments when you feel your body make decisions without consulting you. Mine decided right then that if I stayed on the highway, we were going to end up in someone's trunk." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I flipped on my hazard lights and pulled onto the shoulder, half parking, half abandoning the rules of traffic for sheer survival. If my car had feelings, it would have sighed and said, "Here we go." Lily's voice came from the back seat, small and immediate. "Mommy." I stared at the blurry white line on the road. My mother was still talking through the speaker, but my mind had zeroed in on one thing. Lily heard it. The second that realization hit, I tapped the screen, ending the call so fast it was practically a reflex, like snatching a falling knife before a toddler can step on it. I redialed immediately. "Mom," I hissed because apparently whispering makes everything better. "I'm driving. Lily is in the car. We're on our way to the airport. What are you talking about?" "You heard me," my mother said, the careful tone gone as if it had never existed. "It's for the best." I looked in the mirror again. Lily wasn't kicking anymore. She was just staring straight ahead. Her fox was clutched so tightly it looked like armor. I didn't trust my mouth to be safe in front of her for one more sentence. "Hold on," I said sharply. "1 second. Then I leaned back just enough to keep my voice gentle for Lily. "Sweetheart, stay buckled. I'll be right outside the door." Before she could answer, I was out of the car. Door slammed. Cold air, the roar of the freeway. One step away from my child, one step closer to the truth. I brought the phone back up to my ear. "Okay," I said, my voice low and steady. "Say it again." My mom didn't even pretend to soften it. "Danielle doesn't want the stress. She has guests coming. We're not doing this." "Guests," I repeated, and it came out flat. "So Lily is what? A bad look." My mother made that little sound of irritation she makes when I name the thing she's hiding. "Don't start." I'm not starting, I said. I'm clarifying. Did you just tell me my 6-year-old daughter is an embarrassment? She'll get over it, my mother said, as if talking about a spilled drink. A car sped past. The wind whipped my coat around me. I stared at my car door like it was the only solid thing in the world. We have flights, I said. We're on our way. Well, now you're not, she snapped. Danielle needed a day without drama. There it was again. Without drama. As if my child were an unregulated substance. I get it, I said, swallowing it down. It's for the best, my mother said finally. We'll see you some other time. There was a pause, just long enough for me to wait for the part where she said, I'm sorry. She didn't. She did what she always did when I didn't immediately bend into the shape she needed. She ended the call. I stared at the dark screen for half a second, as if it might light back up and say, just kidding. I love my granddaughter. It didn't. So I did the only thing left. I called the person whose comfort apparently controlled the holiday calendar. Danielle answered on the second ring. What? She said, already annoyed, as if I had interrupted something important. Probably breathing. Did you tell Mom to uninvite us? I asked. There was a beat, then a sigh. One of those sighs designed to make you feel ashamed for speaking. Monica, Danielle said. I have people coming over. People, I repeated. Ethan has clients coming, she added quickly, as if that made it noble, like it was a charity to host Thanksgiving for the commercially important. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. So you didn't want questions. There was a silence just long enough to count as an answer. Danielle's voice sharpened. I don't want a scene. My child exists, I said. Is that the scene? You're doing it right now, Danielle snapped. This is why no one can deal with you. You make everything a drama. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't try to teach empathy to someone who treated it like an elective. Okay, I said, and my voice was so quiet I didn't even recognize it. Understood. And I ended the call before she could reply. I stood there on the shoulder of the highway for a few more seconds because I needed to breathe. Then I opened the door and got back in. Lily's eyes were on my face immediately, searching for clues the way kids do when they don't have the words yet. I forced my face into a mask of calm. The kind of calm mothers learn in hostage situations. Hey, I said softly. Lily didn't hesitate. They don't want me. A lump formed in my throat. I felt a sudden urge to scream into my steering wheel, but Lily was watching me, and I had one job. No, I said automatically. Don't lie, Lily said, her voice wobbling. I heard. Grandma said I'm embarrassing. I leaned back and stared at the road. My hazard lights were blinking steady and bright, like my car was silently asking for help. I'm sorry, I said, and it came out rough. Lily hugged her stuffed fox harder, as if she could protect it from shame. I stared at the airport signs in the distance and realized something with stunned clarity. I could still make this day about us. I turned the car around. Lily didn't say anything for a while. That was the most terrifying part. A quiet 6-year-old is never a good sign. I took her to an ice cream parlor because I didn't know what else to do with a broken heart, and a child who still believed in grandparents. Get whatever you want, I said. She looked up at me. 2 scoops. And sprinkles, I said. Especially sprinkles. We sat by the window. Lily stared at her sundae and didn't eat it. Then I noticed the table next to us. An older couple, their daughter, and a little girl about Lily's age. They were easy together, comfortable, like no one had to earn their spot. The lump in my throat came back. I looked away quickly, as if that would stop it. It didn't. The older woman leaned over gently. Hey, are you okay? I opened my mouth to say I was fine. Nothing came out. Lily sniffled quietly beside me, as if trying to be small enough not to cause trouble. The older woman looked from me to Lily, and her face softened. Would you two like to join us? Before I could answer, her little girl slid off her chair and walked over to Lily. I'm Sophie, she said. Do you like unicorns? Lily blinked. Yeah. Come on, Sophie said. And Lily followed her to the play corner, as if her body remembered how to be a kid. The older woman smiled. I'm Evelyn. This is Henry, and that's our daughter, Rebecca. Monica, I said. Evelyn didn't lean in like we were about to deep dive. She just nodded toward the play corner, where Lily and Sophie were already arguing over a plastic spoon as if it mattered. She's got good kid energy, Evelyn said, as if that was all she needed to know. Henry passed me a napkin without making a big deal of it. A small gesture, a huge impact. Rebecca looked at me with sympathy and said, "Holidays can be so much." I let out a breath that wasn't quite a laugh. That's one way to put it. Evelyn watched me for a second, not prying, just present, then asked gently, "Are you all right?" I should have said yes. I should have said I was just tired and moved on like I always did, but my mouth betrayed me. "No," I admitted. And then, because the dam was already cracked, a sentence slipped out. We were supposed to fly home for Thanksgiving, and my mother called and uninvited us. Evelyn's expression shifted, not dramatically, but immediately. "Because of Lily?" Rebecca asked quietly, as if she already knew the answer but didn't want to assume. I looked down at my hands. "Yes." Henry's jaw tightened. Evelyn's voice got low. "Carefully. What did she say?" I hesitated. Then I swallowed. "That she was an embarrassment." No one spoke for a beat. Evelyn didn't ask for a life story, didn't demand details, she just said it quietly like she couldn't help it. How could anyone say that about a child? And that was the problem, because the real answer wasn't one sentence, it wasn't just one phone call, and I had no idea where to begin. Evelyn and Henry were watching me as if they were waiting for the rest of the story, and I realized I had never said it out loud to people who weren't already committed to misunderstanding me. So I did what I always do when I'm about to say something painful. I made a joke. "They're very traditional in my family," I said. "Like turkey stuffing, and pretending I don't exist unless my sister needs an audience." Rebecca let out a short laugh that seemed to surprise her, as if she recognized the defense mechanism. Evelyn didn't laugh. Not because she didn't get it, but because she got it too well. "You have a sister," she stated. "Older," I said. "Danielle." Just saying her name made my shoulders tense. Danielle was the right daughter, the one who didn't cause problems, mostly because she never had to ask for anything. It was just given to her like a crown. As kids, Danielle's achievements were framed. Mine were acknowledged if no one was busy. If Danielle got an A, my parents said, "That's our girl." If I got an A, they said, "Good, keep it up." If Danielle cried, the house rearranged itself around her. If I cried, my parents told me, "Don't start." As adults, Danielle married Ethan, a man my parents approved of like they were judges on a reality show called America's Next Acceptable Son-in-Law. Ethan shook hands with too much sincerity. He wore button-down shirts. He laughed at my father's jokes. He fit into my parents' world like a puzzle piece they'd ordered online. Danielle had Noah and Chloe, and my parents became the kind of grandparents you see in commercials. The kind who baked cookies and posted photos and wrote captions about blessings. When Noah was born, my mother announced it as if the royal family had produced an heir. When Lily was born, my mother said, "Well, this is going to be hard." I didn't tell Evelyn and Henry all that. Not yet. Because the thing is, my parents weren't cartoon villains with twirly mustaches. They weren't cruel every second. They could be sweet in small, confusing bursts. A birthday card, a toy sent in the mail, a "Tell Lily I love her," tacked onto the end of a call like an afterthought. Just enough to keep me hoping. Just enough to keep me trying. Lily's father, my ex, was a relationship I thought would turn into a life. He smiled in pictures. He could be charming in public. And then, quietly behind closed doors, things became difficult. The situation was no longer healthy or safe, and one night I packed a bag, buckled a smaller Lily into her car seat, and drove to my parents' house, because I genuinely believed that's what family was for. I pictured a door opening and my mother pulling me in and saying, "Are you safe?" What I got was my mother looking at the suitcase and asking, "Are you sure?" And my father half asleep, blinking at me like I'd shown up with a raccoon. "He seemed fine," my mother said. "You've always been sensitive, Monica." Sensitive. Another family motto. I told them the truth as carefully as I could. I said, "He's not who you think he is." And my mother said, "Don't be dramatic." They let us stay. That was the part one focused on, as if it excused everything else, but staying there was like living inside a warning label. No one yelled at me, no one threw us out into the snow. It was more subtle than that. It was the way my mother would sigh when Lily cried, as if the sound was a personal offense. It was the way my father would stare at the TV when I was talking, as if eye contact might obligate him to care. It was my mother saying things like, "You know it's going to be harder to do this alone? And it's just a shame things didn't work out," as if the problem was the aesthetic of my life, not my safety. Once I said, quietly and carefully, that I was relieved the divorce process had been straightforward. I meant it. My mother looked at me like I had confessed to a crime. "Families work things out," she said. "People don't just leave." I remember thinking, yes, they do. I just did. But I didn't say it. I swallowed it. I told myself my mother was old-fashioned. I told myself she didn't understand. I told myself she wanted what was best. I told myself a lot of things. Then came the part that made it all crystal clear in retrospect. One afternoon my mother mentioned that she was having guests over. People from church, neighbors, nice people. And she said to me, "Why don't you take Lily for a walk for a little while?" Not because she needed fresh air, but because my mother didn't want to explain me. I took Lily to a park and watched her toddle down a slide and thought, at least she's happy. I told myself it was temporary. It was always temporary until it wasn't. I started looking for a job like my life depended on it because in a way it did. My parents didn't tell me I had to leave. They said things like, "So what's your plan? And you can't stay here forever. And don't you want to get on your feet?" Eventually I got a job offer, a good one, but it was so far away that visiting would involve planning, plane tickets, and a whole production. I remember standing in the kitchen with the offer letter in my hand, Lily on my hip, and saying, "It's really far. I think I should just keep looking for something local for a little longer." I was hoping my parents would say, "Of course we can help. Stay, find the right thing." My mother didn't even hesitate. "A job's a job," she said. "You can't turn that down. You can't be picky," my father added without looking up. "You don't want to stay here forever," my mother said. And the words hit me like a closing door. So I took the job. I moved. I built a life far away. I told myself I was independent and but it was also an exile with better branding. Through it all, Lily still asked about her grandparents, mostly because other kids talked about theirs and she wanted to feel like she belonged. So when my mother called her an embarrassment, it didn't just hurt me. It hit Lily, and that was the final straw. I could swallow the shame they had for me, but I wasn't going to teach my daughter to swallow it too. That's why, sitting in that ice cream parlor, watching Lily play with Sophie, I finally let myself see the truth. It didn't have to be this way. And when Evelyn told me to come to our Thanksgiving tomorrow, I understood it wasn't pity. It was a door. I went not because I wasn't terrified, but because Lily deserved a holiday where she wasn't treated like a problem. Evelyn's house smelled like a real Thanksgiving. Roasting turkey, butter, cinnamon, something baking that made the whole place feel warm before anyone even spoke to you. Henry opened the door with a smile, like they were expecting us, not fitting us in. "Monica," he said, like my name belonged in his house. "You made it." Lily stood behind me at first, clutching her stuffed fox like a shield. Then Sophie appeared and said, "You're here," as if it was the best news of her life. Lily's shoulders dropped an inch, then another. Evelyn handed me a mug of something warm and said, "Do you cook?" "Over here." "Shoes wherever." "Your family today." Family today. That phrase could have been cheesy. Coming from Evelyn, it just felt like the truth. Lily and Sophie disappeared into a room full of toys, and I stood there in the entryway with my coat still on, blinking like I had walked into the wrong movie. Then my phone buzzed. I checked it out of habit, as if the universe might be texting me an apology and I could go back to believing in magic. It was Facebook, and there it was. A picture of my parents at their dining room table with Danielle, Ethan, Noah, and Chloe. All smiling, posed perfect. The kind of picture that says, "We are grateful. We are blessed. Also, we are very good at angles." The caption was about family and quality time with the grandkids. Hearts, comments, people saying how lovely, and love this. There was no mention of Lily, not even a polite lie like missing some of our own, just a complete erasure. I stared at it for a long second, and something inside me went still. Not sad, not shocked, just tired. I put my phone in my pocket and walked into Evelyn's kitchen, where Rebecca was stirring something on the stove and Henry was carving something as if he took it personally. Evelyn looked at my face and didn't ask. She just pushed a plate toward me and said, "Sit down, eat while it's hot." And here's the thing, I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I finally understood that my tears were currency, and the people who used them as proof of my drama would always cash them in. So instead I took action. It wasn't a dramatic action, it wasn't revenge. It was a quiet, internal decision, so firm it felt like it was made of steel. Lily would never have to audition for love again. Later, as we were eating, Lily leaned over to me and asked in a very small voice, "Mommy, do you think Grandma will ever like me?" My fork stopped in midair. Across the table, Evelyn didn't look at me. She didn't have to. I could feel her listening. I forced my voice to be steady. "You are not the problem," I said. "Not ever." Lily nodded like she wanted to believe me but wasn't sure if she was allowed. Rebecca reached over and passed Lily an extra dinner roll. "No fuss, no, you poor thing. Just here, you are included." After Thanksgiving, my parents didn't text. Neither did I. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months. It wasn't a dramatic breakup. It was a mutual silence that proved how conditional my place in that family had always been. If I didn't show up to be managed, no one came looking for me. Meanwhile, Sunday dinners at Evelyn and Henry's became a thing. Every week at 5, like a standing appointment with safety. Slowly, Lily's drawings started appearing on their refrigerator. A kid's cup took up residence in a cabinet as if it lived there. Sophie saved Lily a seat without being told. Henry asked Lily about her school day like her answer mattered. One Sunday, Lily spilled apple juice across the table. I flinched because my body still expected a sigh, an eye roll, and an, "Honestly, Monica." Evelyn just grabbed a towel and said, "It's a table. It's seen worse." Henry nodded solemnly. I spilled gravy on a Thanksgiving centerpiece once back in '98. The family survived. Lily laughed. A real laugh. I realized dry humor had gotten me through my childhood. Warm humor was getting Lily through her healing. And then one afternoon it happened. Lily was running to Evelyn in the kitchen with her arms wide and she yelled, "Grandma Evelyn." I stopped breathing because I was waiting for a correction, for awkwardness. I was waiting for someone to say, "Oh no, sweetie, I'm not your grandma." Evelyn turned, opened her arms and said, "There's my girl," just like that. Henry looked up from his newspaper and said, "Hey kiddo." Lily beamed. I went into the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror for a full minute because my eyes were wet, and I was furious at how unfair it was that love could be this easy if people just decided it could be. That week, I updated the important documents: school pickup lists, emergency contacts, medical permissions, and a guardianship plan. Quietly, legally, permanently. If anything ever happened to me, Lily would live with Evelyn and Henry. Not my parents, not Danielle and Ethan. It was the most adult sentence I had ever written, and my hand didn't shake once. Rebecca and I got closer too. Not in a let's braid each other's hair way, but in a we can talk about our feelings for 3 hours or sit in silence and both are fine way. We traded babysitting once, then just vented while the kids played. It started to feel like a sisterhood without either of us ever saying it. Then, Rebecca invited me to a single-parent playgroup she hosted once a week at a community center. "It's low stakes," she promised. "Kids play. Adults pretend they remember how to socialize." It sounded like my nightmare, so I went. And that's where I met Adrian. He walked in with a little boy, Miles, who was holding a toy car and had the serious expression of a toddler assessing whether this place had snacks. Adrian wasn't flashy. He didn't walk in like he was auditioning to be everyone's favorite dad. He just noticed things. He held the door for a mom juggling a stroller. He picked up a dropped sippy cup like it was no big deal. He waved at Lily like she was a person, not an accessory. It didn't happen all at once. Adrian became a regular part of our routine, and then our life. Lily and Miles clicked. Some days at Evelyn and Henry's became normal. A year passed, quiet and solid, and somehow without any fanfare we ended up planning a wedding. 1 year after the Thanksgiving that started it all, my life was unrecognizable. I was engaged to Adrian. Lily had Miles and Sophie as built-in best friends. Evelyn and Henry weren't nice people we met once. They were family. My biological family had been silent for a year, So when Mom's name lit up my phone, I stared at it like it was going to bite me. Adrian looked up. You okay? I took a breath to steady myself and answered. Monica, my mother said, her voice careful, controlled. The same tone from the side of the road. I heard you're getting married. Yes, I said. A beat. And then the real reason. So where's our invitation? I kept my voice calm. You're not invited. Silence. Then outrage, as if I'd violated a law. What do you mean we're not invited? That's ridiculous, she sputtered. What was ridiculous? I asked. You calling my 6-year-old daughter an embarrassment? Don't start, she warned. I almost laughed. Muscle memory. I'm not starting, I said. I'm finishing. She hung up. Then the pressure came in waves. Calls, texts, relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly discovering my number like it was a hobby. You can't uninvite your parents. Be the bigger person. Family is family. I explained it once. One sentence to one person. They rejected Lily. She heard them. The line went quiet after that. Then came the voicemail. We're coming anyway, my mother said, her voice tight and pleased like she'd solved a problem. Danielle sent me a text. You're being dramatic. This is why no one can deal with you. Adrian listened to all of it, his jaw set. You're not crazy, he said quietly. Thanks, I said. I'd like that embroidered on a pillow. We arranged for security at the wedding. One rule, no exceptions. No one gets near Lily. The wedding day came. I was getting ready with Rebecca fussing with a curling iron, Evelyn fixing a ribbon on Lily's dress, and Henry standing nearby, pretending not to be emotional. Lily twirled. How do I look? You look like trouble, Rebecca said fondly. The best kind. Evelyn smiled at Lily. Our girl. Henry cleared his throat. Ready, kid. Then the coordinator stepped in. Monica, your parents are here. And your sister's family. My pulse jumped. Adrian was at my side instantly. Do you want them removed? I looked at Lily. Shiny dress, tiny bracelet, 6-year-old heart still on the mend. I wasn't risking a screaming match with Lily nearby. No, I said. Let them in. Back row. Away from Lily. If they approach her, you stop them. The coordinator nodded and vanished. Henry offered me his arm. His hand was steady, and that was the whole point. I walked down the aisle. They were in the back. My mother stiff. My father shrunken. Danielle watching the room like it was a performance review. Ethan leaning back as if he belonged there. Noah and Chloe already bored. My biological father didn't stand. Henry did. Henry walked me down the aisle as if it was an honor for him to be there. As if I mattered to him. Adrian was waiting at the altar, his eyes locked on me, the kind of look that says, I choose you, I choose your child, I choose us. My biological family watched from the back like they had shown up too late to be important. At the reception, Lily was safe at the kids' table with Sophie and Miles. That's all I cared about. Then the DJ tapped the microphone. If I could have everyone's attention. My stomach clenched. It wasn't fear but anticipation because I had planned for this. I took the microphone. Thank you, I said, for being here. I paused. Then I said it. Quiet, clear, impossible to ignore. A year ago, I was told not to come to Thanksgiving because my child was too much. A hush fell over the room. That phone call didn't take anything from us. It showed me where we really belonged. I turned to Evelyn and Henry. Evelyn, Henry, you made space for us when you didn't have to. You loved Lily not as a burden, but as exactly what she is. An incredible kid. The room erupted in applause and whistles. People were standing. Evelyn stood looking overwhelmed. Henry was beside her, his face red with pride. Rebecca, I added, you became the sister I always needed. More applause. Then I looked at the back row. My mother's face had gone blank. Danielle looked stunned. Ethan's smirk was gone. My father was looking at his hands. Their faces were pale because now everyone in the room knew. Now the story belonged to me. I handed the microphone back and wrapped my arms around Adrian. For a moment it was over. Then my mother was pushing through the crowd. How could you say that? She hissed. The truth, I said calmly. She snapped. You humiliated us in front of all these people. You humiliated a 6-year-old girl on the phone, I replied. I'm just matching energy. Her eyes flashed. That is my granddaughter. I lowered my voice. You rejected her. We did not, she started. Stop, I said. And the word landed like a closing door. You said she was an embarrassment. She tried her last weapon. You can't keep her from us. We have rights. And that's when I let it drop. If anything happens to me, I said calmly, Lily goes to Evelyn and Henry. Not you. My mother swayed. You what? You're not listed anywhere important, I said quietly. Not on her school forms, her medical files, or in my will. Legally, you don't exist in her life. My father's eyes were filling with tears. Danielle looked furious. My mother turned toward Lily, as if she could still claim something. There you are, she called out, her voice suddenly sweet. Come here, sweetie. Security was there instantly, blocking her. Henry stepped in too. Silent. Unmovable. Rebecca was already moving Lily away. Evelyn got to her first, calm and practiced. Like this wasn't the first time she had shielded a child from adult chaos. My mother's voice rose. This is my family. Henry kept his voice low. Not today. I looked at my mother and felt something settle in me. Calm, final. I don't hate you, I said quietly. I've just stopped expecting you to be different. Then I nodded to security. Please escort them out. They were let out. My mother kept looking back at me as if she expected me to chase her. I didn't. I knelt in front of Lily. Are you okay? Lily frowned. Was that Grandma? That was someone who can't hurt you anymore, I said. Lily blinked. Then she asked, Can I have cake now? I let out a shaky laugh. Absolutely. And I went back to my wedding. The next morning, my phone was full of messages from people who cared more about tradition than a child's feelings. I deleted them. Then a text came through from Jasmine. I heard what happened. I'm proud of you. Protect Lily. You're doing the right thing. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back. Thank you. And for the first time in my life, I meant it when I thought I'm free. Comment. I wanted to share this story because it holds a powerful truth for so many of us. You can't force someone to value you, but you can absolutely choose to value yourself. Setting a boundary isn't an act of aggression. It's a profound act of self-respect. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is protect your peace and the peace of your children. True family is found where kindness, safety, and acceptance live, not just where blood ties exist. It's about learning that you have the power to stop waiting for an apology and start building your own happiness. The right people will not ask you to shrink yourself to make them comfortable. Remember that your well-being matters more than keeping up appearances. Healing begins the moment you decide you deserve better. I hope you feel empowered to make that choice for yourself. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.